The Maxpedition Falcon 2 is a 1,520 cubic inch backpack. That's about 25 liters. And it can fill a variety of different roles, just kind of depending on what the user defines them as. But what helps with that is not just the backpack and the way it's set up, but also the ability to modularize it or personalize it. Let's take a closer look at it and see where that 1520 cubic inches is split up between. You do have a main compartment, and one thing I really like about this main compartment is it'll open all the way. So you can see I've got it here, but it'll open kind of like a clamshell. So you've really got full access to whatever you put in. Now, got a mesh pocket on this side. You can kind of see the depth of it there with my hand. And also it's got another mesh pocket on this side. This one does zip at the top. Also has access to bring a hydration system, the hose, through the top portion, and it can go out via the top right here. Next compartment, you've got a fairly good sized compartment here. You can kind of see there's about 100 feet of paracord. See how that fits in there. It gives you a little bit of a size comparison. And this is all the stuff that I keep in there right now. You can see you do have a pocket here, main pocket in the back, plus you have two mesh pockets in front of that one as well. Moving along, you've got two pockets on the very front of the backpack, or back I guess depending on how you look at it. There's this one here. This is actually, just to give you a size, this is a Glock 23 mag. And you can kind of see how that looks inside there. So not a huge pocket, but one that I find to be very useful. And the outside pocket. Now this is an add-on piece. So this piece right here you're just going to have to ignore. This is put on by the molle webbing. We'll get into that. This is the inside of that pocket. It's fairly deep, but it's very skinny. You can see that it got the organization inside with the pens. There's also a pocket in the back. Little key ring holder there. I have a knife on it. The last compartment is a concealment compartment or a water bladder compartment. And that's what you've got inside. On the bottom, it's kind of tough to see right now. It's got some hook and loop, so you can put some holsters in there, which I've got here. This holster is actually from another system, but it works just fine inside. This can also be used as a water bladder, and you can see the top right up here. So your hose would come out through there. This is just that reverse angle that I'm showing you, that I showed you earlier, and come out the top of the bag right here. Also, what they've added to the bottom of this are these drainage holes. So if your water bladder were to leak or break somehow, you do have drainage holes on the bottom. The outside of the bag has a lot of compression straps. You can see the kind of Y compression strap out here. This will really cinch down. Right now there's not a lot in the bag, and you can see the compression straps on the side as well. There's these two, and then of course you have two more on the other side. So that kind of gives you an idea of what the bag looks like width-wise. And this, you can kind of see where it's been cinched down a little bit. And if I wanted to, I could cinch it down even more than that. On this top Y strap, you can also see you have a D-ring here. There's plenty of attachment pieces to this bag all over. Nice handle on the top, and the stitching is reinforced just about every pressure point you can imagine. You got the box stitching there with the X, another little attachment point right here, and then of course you've got all the molle, which you're seeing being used right now. So I've got 4 additional packs on this, or accessories, to give me a little bit more space. And here's one. I might detail these in another vid. I don't want to slow down too much. On the end here, this is just to give you an idea of what the webbing is capable of. It does have some hook and loop underneath this attachment, so if you want, you can put a patch on there. So right there you've got 1, 2, 3 strips of molle webbing. You do have some strips right here. I'm not quite sure what that can be used for molle wise, but it does give you some attachment points if you get creative. Likewise here on the side, you've got several running up the side of the bag, which I have kind of a dump pouch on. Also on the other side of the bag. This is actually a first aid kit. I need to get something to help identify that with. The bottom has 2 attachment points. And what I find about this webbing, this 1-inch webbing, is it works relatively well, but you can get an idea of the size of loop this creates. It's not a huge one. So what I find, even a sleeping bag in a compression bag has a tough time getting into this area, depending on the bag you're using. But that's where, if you know knots, they'll help you out quite a bit. These shoulder straps has a couple of D-rings on the outside. They do cinch down for adjustment, and they're fairly well padded. Also has a chest strap on it, and as well it has a waist strap on it. Now this waist strap is not padded, but I do find that it adds the stability that it needs, and for how big this pack is and how much weight you're going to be able to put in it, this is more than adequate for what it needs. This pack comes in a variety of different colors. The color you're looking at here is the foliage green. That happens to be one of my favorite. Khaki, black, orange, and blue, I believe, too. It comes in all different types of colors, so it's kind of a fun one that you have a lot of options with. And again, speaking of those options, these attachments make it all that much more fun to kind of play around with. I've used this in a variety of different ways. I've used it as a car bag, which I'm currently doing now, and it crosses over as a range bag, because my car bag, actually, I find I've got more than enough room in there plus some. So I can use it to, let's say, just throw a bunch of ammo in and head out to go shooting or whatever it might be. The material that it's made out of is a 1050 denier water and abrasion resistant nylon. I've had it in a variety of different environments, including up against sandstone, rubbing up against that, plus a lot of day hikes, and it has been in and out of my car on a constant basis. This thing has been out on shooting trips with me, and the material has really held up well. So while you might be spending a little bit more for Maxpedition stuff, and you're going to have to decide if that's worth it to you or not, the quality is certainly there. And from how hard I've used this thing, it's really not showing a lot of wear. And that's why this environment is so tough on gear. You get this sandstone, and alone it's like sandpaper. Then you get down in here, you get all this sand, you get it in your gear, you get it on there, and it just tears your gear up. This is a really harsh environment for backpacks, and especially electronics. I've touched on this subject somewhat already, but how I see this being used is a car bag, a get home bag. Now, get home bag, you gotta figure out if this is big enough for you. I think some guys this would be fine. Other guys, it might be a little bit too small. So it kind of depends on how you see it, how you pack. So just think of that. Day hike, absolutely. An overnight bag, kind of the same thing as a get home bag, depending on how much you pack. Having owned this bag for years now, it is such a great pack. I would highly recommend it. One of the biggest reasons I purchased it was because of the ability to add the attachments to it via the molle webbing. And that's something that I found to be very useful and handy, and it makes just that much more of a flexible backpack. Overall, this is a great bag that I've added to my system, and quite honestly, probably the bag that I use the most just on a day-to-day basis. Especially going over to, I took down a ceiling fan in somebody's house that we purchased, and I took this bag with my tools in it over to their house. So, like I said, I just find myself using this for a variety of different things. It's coming really handy. Great bag. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. See ya. Overall, it's been a great bag added to my system, and it's going to fall over. It's my cat-like reflexes. Overall, this has been a great bag added to my system. It's one I'm certainly glad